Giant killings, dream debuts, and goal gluts that put the Men's World Cup to shame. None of these factors were enough to unfortunately cover or avert your eyes from the glaring problem at WAFCON. Welcome back to Meet My Pantheon, and let's get right back into it. Before we address the herd of elephants in the room, it would be remiss of me to actually look at the action that took place on the pitch itself. And of course, we begin with the opening ceremony, which was actually quite nice. I enjoyed it. It was very refreshing, very nice to see something that was nearly stripped and laid back from the pomp and circumstance of the Men's World Cup. And I really did enjoy the performance from the Moroccan dancers and the singer. Unfortunately, I couldn't find her name, but I think it was a nice showcase of Moroccan culture, and it was very nice. Long story short, I enjoyed it personally. Hopefully, if you watched the opening ceremony, you enjoyed it as well. If not, of course, leave your comments on what you didn't like or what you thought could have been done better. That's, of course, if I don't mention the obvious thing that I'm going to mention towards the end of the video. But when it comes to the actual football that was played on the pitch, of course, the host Morocco opened up against Kenya, and there really is not much to talk about when it comes to this match. It was a whitewash. Morocco already 3-0 up by halftime, and of course, they rounded out the scoring to make it 4-0 just 2 minutes into the second half. So there's really not much to write about. Kenya didn't really show up. They were just there effectively, and Morocco, given the quality that they have on the field and even on the bench, they were really never going to struggle in this game, and they really showed that. The Atlas Lionesses just tore into the opposition, and yeah, going on to the next game. And following on from the curtain raiser, we had the remaining fixture of Group A, which saw Algeria take on Senegal. And credit must be given to the Senegalese, who had a very promising start to the game, but unfortunately they were too sloppy to threaten the Algerian defense, let alone the keeper, as they had so many different moments to just put the ball into the back of the net, and they just could not. Whether it was due to poor communication between the players, too much time on the ball and thinking about what to do next, whether to pass or to shoot, and so on and so forth, Senegal were unfortunately the victims of their own defeat in this situation. And for Algeria, it did take them a while, but once they grew into the game, they ultimately ran out deserving 2-0 winners against a poor and haphazard opponent. Because where Senegal were failing in terms of communicating and knowing what to do next with the ball, Algeria had absolutely no problems with that, as they took their chances and of course ran out deserving 2-0 winners to claim all 3 points. Much like Group A's fixtures, Group B's fixtures opened up with another drubbing, with Ivory Coast taking on Burkina Faso, and as I said already, it was a massacre. The Ivory Coast just had too much in the locker for Burkina Faso to deal with. Again, it was another whitewash, with the Ivorians coming out 4-1 winners over Burkina Faso, which, at least unlike Morocco and Kenya, Burkina Faso actually got a goal out of this. So when it comes to that, I guess you can give them some sort of credit. But in this situation, one of the biggest themes of this game was just shoddy and poor defending, particularly from the Burkinabe, and their goalkeeper in particular. They were just not there. And I'm not accusing them of not being professional, not wanting to play, or sabotaging their team or anything, but their quality was just below par, and they were torn apart left, right, and center. They might as well have not been there, and the outcome would have been the same. Maybe Ivory Coast would have gotten a few more goals out of it, but otherwise it was just poor defending across the board. And I think the scoreline actually flatters the Burkinabe when you think about it. And of course, this criticism, I do also harbor it for the Ivorian goalkeeper, Diakite, who also had a very poor game. She was also out to lunch, much like the Burkinabe defense and goalkeeper. She had very few chances to actually impose herself on the game, such as the dominance of her side, but the one time her team needed her the most to not only make the scoreline look flattering, but to get herself a clean sheet as well, she just faltered. I don't know if her concentration was down given the way her team was dominating, or if she just wasn't aware of what was happening. But either way, the goal that she conceded was very poor and was arguably the biggest mark on an otherwise very clean and professional performance by Ivory Coast. And now for the next few minutes, we get to inarguably the best part of the opening round of fixtures at the WAFCON this year. And we begin with South Africa versus Tanzania. This is game of the round 1. And simply because Tanzania came out swinging. They did not care that they were coming face to face in their maiden tournament bout against the former holders of the WAFCON title. Tanzania did not care. They had nothing to lose and they played like it. It was not a David and Goliath situation where it's just going to be expected that Goliath smashes David to pieces. David came out fighting and he did not have a slingshot here. He came out fighting. In Tanzania, they came out fighting. They were awesome in this game. They came at South Africa with everything. This was a workshop performance from Tanzania because every time that they lost the ball, they defended for their lives. They made it hard for South Africa to get out and get into their flow and play the way they wanted to play. Tanzania just choked them when it came to defending. And when they went on the counter, those counters were lethal. The Tanzania players were just honestly on their bag. And it would be very, very disingenuous of me to just try and single out one particular player from the team because the entire team was working their socks off. And it was just beautiful to see. South Africa, they struggled to assert themselves, and like I said already, they were hounded from end to end, and it was beautiful to see. From one dream debut to another, as Malawi took on Nigeria in the first encounter of Group C. And going into this game, everybody expected the current holders of the WAFCON in Nigeria to just sweep past Malawi, because Malawi, to their credit, all they really have in terms of player reputation are the Chawinga sisters, both Temwa and Tabitha. But whatever script that we were reading and what Nigeria were reading, clearly Malawi didn't get it. They decided to write their own script because what transpired on the pitch was something amazing and beautiful. Malawi are known as the Scorchers. That is their nickname, and they lived up to that nickname, as after a very tense and goalless first half of football, the Scorchers came out and they burned through Nigeria. Both the Chawinga sisters had themselves on the score sheet, with Temwa scoring on either side of Tabitha's solo goal. And honestly, Nigeria did not know what hit them. Anytime the Falcons tried to get themselves together and get to goal, they were just snuffed out. The same defensive resilience I described in the Tanzania game just before, that's the same thing that was on display here for Malawi. But the only difference was that, unlike Tanzania, Malawi had 2 lethal markswomen in their team, and those markswomen did not miss. Temwa in particular, her second goal of the game was absolutely mesmerizing. Her cheeky lift off the ball over Shamaka Nadozi and her corresponding defender was just amazing. What makes it better is that that was the buzzer beater, the stoppage time goal that guaranteed and gave Malawi the 3 points, and of course their maiden victory in their maiden debut in a major national competition, of course this being WAFCON. Nigeria, to their credit, did not take the sucker punch lying down, as even after going 2-0 down, a penalty goal from Rashidat Ajibade and a very late Uchenna Kanu goal managed to see the Super Falcons get up to 2-2 against Malawi until, of course, the Temwa Chawinga wonder goal. And whilst the holders suffered a setback, they did really do their best to try and break down the Scorchers, but unfortunately they did not have enough to unlock the Malawian defense. But they did still give a good account of themselves, and whilst this was a sucker punch and really puts them on a tight edge when it comes to qualifying to the knockout stages of the tournament, I think that they will learn a lot from this performance, and going forward I think they'll also be more respectful of their opposition no matter who is in front of them, and they'll come out swinging, and hopefully they can come up with a few solutions against the defensive solidity that they faced in this game. And following on from these 2 games, I think it would be fair to say that these had flattered to deceive in terms of showing us what WAFCON could be in terms of giant killings and small teams coming up and giving a good fight against big teams. But once we got to the final encounter of Group C, Zambia versus Egypt, we were pretty much brought down back to earth very quickly. And you'll see this because, one, Egypt's defense was much like the defense of Burkina Faso and Kenya, which is more than enough considering what I've talked about in terms of those 2 defenses. 2, Barbara Banda caught herself a hat trick. So obviously you can already see that this is not going the way you want it to go, because 3, Zambia ran out decisive and indomitable 6-0 winners against the Cleopatras in a game that was honestly a glorified training session for the Copper Queens. Finally, round 1's action was seen in Group D, beginning with Cabo Verde taking on Ghana. And much like what I said in the previous video about WAFCON, Ghana are one of the teams to watch out for, and this match was exemplary of that fact, because the Black Queens honestly did not struggle in this game from the beginning to the very end. In fact, this was just a very professional and crisp performance from them, and credit to the Blue Sharks. They tried their best to try and give themselves a good account of their ability, but unfortunately they could not really pull themselves up to snuff against Ghana. And for the latter, it was just, again, it was a crisp performance. They didn't put a single foot wrong. They were the better team by far. I think the scoreline actually flatters to deceive Cabo Verde, because in all fairness and honesty, Ghana should have scored more. And really, it's a shame that they didn't, because I think if they had their shooting boots on, they could have gotten something similar to what Zambia did against Egypt. But at the same time, it doesn't take away from their overall performance, as they ran out deserving 2-0 winners, of course with one of those goals being an own goal from Cabo Verde defender Vieira. But at the same time, who cares? It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, Ghana got the 3 points, and again, it was a very good performance from them. And finally, round 1's action came to a close with Cameroon taking on Mali. And this game was actually another good one. Of course, historically, Cameroon have always had Mali's number, because in all of their previous 5 encounters, Cameroon have come out with 4 wins and 1 draw. So obviously, there is a little bit of history between these two teams. And given history, you would lean towards the side of the indomitable Lionesses. And history would prove you right, because in the end, Cameroon did come out 2-1 winners, quite deservingly, but not as much as other teams that we've seen, with Manga scoring twice for Cameroon. But a lot of credit must go to Mali, who, even though they had gone 1-0 down, they managed to bring themselves level after a penalty was converted by their player Binia. But at the same time, they also had quite a very good performance. They made the game as close as it possibly could be, and they kept coming at Cameroon until the very end. And whilst it's unfortunate that they weren't able to get something from the game, I think Mali's performance was actually quite good, relatively speaking. And it can bode well for the remainder of their matches against Cabo Verde and Ghana. I'd expect them to, at the very least, get all 3 points against Cabo Verde. But their match against Ghana, we don't know. We'll have to see. But otherwise, this was just another nice match where the quality on display was quite decent, and I think both teams can be proud of their performances overall. There was no whitewashing or any disappointments that you would have expected to see in terms of the quality on the pitch and the result in the end. And with the round 1 fixtures out of the way, the round 2 fixtures at the time of this recording are halfway done, as Group A and Group B have completed their games. Group C will be in action today when this video is posted, and then Group D will be playing tomorrow on Sunday. And whilst I could cover these games, wait a little bit longer and cover these games and then post it into one giant video, I will be doing that separately, not only for the sake of your time, but also that I've got time to address the elephants in the room. And the elephants, not elephant, in the room are, of course, CAF and everything else to do with CAF. And it's unfortunate because when I initially posted the video about everything you need to know about WAFCON, I was very excited, of course, being African and whatnot. And I was under the impression that CAF would take advantage of some of the demand for international football that would still be there coming off the Men's World Cup. But having watched the first round of fixtures, it's clear that these guys could not be bothered. It was bad enough that the tournament had been delayed to after the World Cup, because before it was going to be played before the World Cup. But now, when I've done a little digging, because I saw just how empty the stadiums were across all of these games, it became very clear that CAF, surprise, surprise, did not do any kind of promotion or awareness campaigns to let people know that WAFCON is happening. And there is nothing more damning to this statement than the fact that they made tickets, yes, tickets for fans, available only 5 days before the opening match. 5 days. So if I'm a fan and let's say I live in Namibia and I want to go watch WAFCON live, I need to plan for accommodation, for travel, and food, and all those other things. But I can't even get a ticket to just go and attend one of these games. I can't do that. And that's just very, very, very abhorrent behavior from Patrice Motsepe and his administration. They need to do a better job of marketing their own competitions. And it's not just because it's women's football, but this is a reflection on the whole of African football in general. If this is how you treat one of your major tournaments, why should people care about other tournaments? You're clearly happy to invest in the men's side and whatnot, blah, 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 broken records and all that. But still, this is a big tournament. There are actual ramifications for the World Cup next year in Brazil for the women that are going to be felt from this tournament. So it's really in your best interest to put your best foot forward and make sure that everybody knows what's happening in this tournament, who's going to be there, how you can be there, amongst many other things. But no effort has been put by CAF. Obviously, the hope is that these attendances can improve once we get to the knockout stages, because of the round 2 matches that I've seen so far, it's more of the same. Even though host Morocco, they're not having a lot of fun in terms of crowd attendance and support. But credit must go to the people who are coming to watch these games, regardless of which country that they're rooting for. They are making it sound loud. They're really putting their voices into it, and they're backing their teams to the point that if you're not watching and seeing the empty seats in the stadium, you would think that it's a packed stadium. That's genuinely how loud it sounds in some of these games. But unfortunately, the reality on the ground is that when you watch it, you will see the empty stadiums, and you will actually start to say to yourself, this could be much louder if better promotion and better organization had been done in this situation. But that was not done. Another thing that is really poor and is a huge indictment on the tournament as a whole, the commentary. It was painful to listen to the commentary. After, I think for me personally, the first 4 games of round 1, I started watching these games with mute on. I could not stand the commentary. The commentary was very amateurish commentary. I'm not trying to hold myself up as a better commentator for these games, or as someone who's got a wealth of experience than these people who are commentating, or at least some of them. But when you hear the way that some of these games are being commentated over, doesn't matter if it's a female commentator or a male commentator, some of them, they just do not sound like they want to be there. They sound like they've got a gun to their head and they're being told, do commentary, otherwise you're getting lead in your head. It's very bad. The commentary is not professional, very substandard. It sounds very robotic, very generic. It's like they have a script that they're having to read out from ChatGPT. I would not be surprised if it comes out that the commentary is actually ChatGPT, because that's how bland it sounds. That's how predictable it sounds. It does not sound interesting, does not sound life-giving or anything. You do not feel energized as a viewer when you're watching these things, and it's so bad. And speaking of so bad, the access to the games. A lot of people wanted to watch WAFCON, not only in Europe, but also in the Americas and so on and so forth. And in the previous video, again, plug, if you want to say, that's what I'm doing. In the previous video, I did highlight some places you can go watch them, but it became apparent that some of those places were actually not showing the WAFCON, and it got so bad to the point that CAF, they started showing their games on their YouTube channel, like I said they most likely would, but only to viewers in the UK. So, you know, if you have a VPN, you might want to switch it to UK so you can watch these CAF games, but that's another indictment on CAF and their organizational capacity. They should have really let the world know that this is how you can watch, this is where you can watch. But clearly they do not, given the confusion that's happening. And even in their attempt to try and address it, only one country got a beneficial package out of it, and that's the UK. It's only the UK. You can be in Germany, you can be in New Zealand, you can be in Australia, it doesn't matter. You can be in Tuvalu. You cannot watch unless you've got a VPN on. Again, that is very bad organization and very bad planning from CAF, and they definitely should be doing better than that. This does not happen for other major tournaments. It does not happen under no circumstances. And this, again, is a very bad reflection on Africa and African football. And as an African, I do not like that one bit at all. It's bad. Very, very bad. And finally, of course, the coaching. Honestly, the teams that have suffered heavy defeats, I don't blame them entirely. And I can appreciate that not all teams will have access to world-class, let alone decent facilities for players to develop and train effectively and efficiently. I appreciate that completely. Not everybody can have the same investment levels as Morocco do, for example. Not everybody. That's okay. But when I look at the quality of football that has been shown by Egypt, that has been shown by Cabo Verde, and these other nations that have suffered heavy defeats, Kenya also, I have to ask, the money that these teams are receiving from their federations, from CAF, from FIFA, where is the investment going? When you see the way they are playing, when you see the way that they are organizing themselves on the pitch and how everyone is running around like a headless chicken, following the ball, making it very easy for strong opposition to decimate them, you've just got to ask, where is the commitment to improvement here? I don't think it's enough to just want to qualify for WAFCON and then call it a day. Some of these players, whilst they'll be doing very amateurish things on the pitch, you can actually see that there's potential with these players, but for one reason or another, they're just not being invested in. And it honestly boggles my mind as to why that's happening, how it's happening, and why it's being allowed to continue. And I think that's something that definitely has to be looked into. I think a lot more accountability has to be demanded from the respective national federations, from CAF itself, and from FIFA. FIFA, we all know they don't care. We've always known, especially under Infantino, we've always known that they don't care. But CAF in particular, they need to be doing a better job in terms of actually seeing development for the teams that they're investing money into. Because this just makes people not want to watch football in general, not even just women's football, just football in general. Because they will say that whatever money is being put into these players, into these teams and whatnot, it's clearly not enough. And it's a shame that this is how it's going to be remembered for. This edition of WAFCON, that is. It's been a very poor start. It's been a very poor show of faith and support. Doesn't matter that more prize money has been added. That prize money means nothing if the quality of football is not better. It means nothing if the accessibility is so limited. It means nothing if fans cannot come travel from near and far to come and watch these teams play. It means nothing. And honestly, there definitely needs to be more that is done, that can be done, and that should be done. Otherwise, we're just wasting our time. And with the end of that fun little rant, this is of course the end of the video. I do apologize for leaving it on such a downer note, but these things need to be called out. The people in charge need to be called out so that they can do a better job than they currently are of supporting these teams and these federations. I want to see a world where African football is dominating, not only on the men's side, but also on the women's side as well. And currently, from what I've seen, not enough work is being put in or done to give that support. And somebody has to talk about it. Somebody has to say it. It needs to be something that is always being talked about, and we shouldn't just be waiting for a big publication to bring to light the issues that are happening. we need to be talking about it at a lower level, like me and this little YouTube channel, and obviously have people with wider reach and wider scopes of publication to also be talking about it and bringing people into account. Otherwise, again, what are we doing here? Like, we might as well just pack our bags and leave. But anyway, that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching or for listening. It depends however you do it. I'm fine with either way. If you enjoyed this video, as always, please like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. And let me know what you think of the WAFCON so far. What do you agree with some of the things that I've mentioned? If not, again, give your reasons. Do you think there are other reasons that could also factor into why the tournament has not been a success so far? Not only in terms of optics, but also in terms of general attitude and behavior towards it. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.